Hello and welcome to Views on News. I'm Jawad Tehami. Caretaker Prime Minister Mr. Anwarul Haqqaqat has visited Jaranwala and expressed solidarity and empathized with the Christian community after a mob on 16th of August ransacked more than 80 homes and 19 churches over there. The Prime Minister also distributed compensation checks of 2 million rupees to each affected family. The Prime Minister also reviewed the rehabilitation work of the damaged churches after the incident. Earlier, the caretaker Chief Minister Punjab, Mr. Mohsin Naqvi, had told media that the caretaker cabinet in Punjab had unanimously approved the compensation for each affected family of the Jaranwala incident. He had also said the government is going to bear the expense in the cost of the rehabilitation and the restoration of the damaged churches in the incident. Caretaker Prime Minister Mr. Anwarul Haqqaqat during his visit to Jaranwala assured that no compromise would be made on the protection of the minorities as they are the integral part of Pakistan as per the constitution of the country. He has also said those attacked the Christian community in Jaranwala on 16th of August are the enemies of the humanity. Meanwhile, we have also seen the Supreme Court will hear the petitions regarding the incident tomorrow. A three-member bench of the Supreme Court headed by Chief Justice, Mr. Justice Omar Ata Bandial, will hear the petitions regarding this particular incident. We've also seen in an interview, according to IG Punjab, 12 people, including a cleric, are under investigation in connection with this particular incident, and 125 people have already been arrested regarding this mob violence in Jaranwala. Also, Pakistan Ulama Council and Church of Pakistan have jointly formed a 24-member interfaith committee to address the Jaranwala incident and foster interfaith harmony and quell the extremist narrative. In today's show, we are going to discuss the steps the authorities in Pakistan have taken in the wake of the gruesome Jaranwala incident. For that, we are honored to have been joined in the studio by Mr. Naveed Aman Khan. He is senior analyst. Mr. Naveed, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on Views on News tonight. Really appreciate that. In the studio, we are also honored to have been joined by Mr. Javed Siddiq. He is senior journalist. Mr. Javed Siddiq, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on Views on News tonight. We really appreciate that. At the same time, on Skype, we are being joined by Dr. Niaz Murtaza. He's political analyst. Dr. Murtaza, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. We really appreciate that. Let me begin the discussion with you, Mr. Naveed. Now, the kind of steps the government has taken in the wake of the gruesome Jaranwala incident, specifically talking about taking the prompt preemptive measures regarding the administrative measures which had been taken at that particular moment so that the violence couldn't escalate. What's your view regarding that?
Jawad, I would appreciate the steps taken by the government of Punjab and the federal government, the Prime Minister Anwarul Haqqaqat and the Chief Minister of Punjab, Mohsin Naqvi Sahab. They visited Jaranwala and they extended solidarity and goodwill gesture to the Christian community affected by the mob in that tragic incident. It is a very good gesture by the government of Pakistan, very timely, very effectively, and it will really console the Christian community there, because they were very, very deeply hurted. Their sentiments were hurt, and the government has shown very positive gesture. The Prime Minister in particular, I would mention that he went himself on the spot and he hugged many of the Christians. I saw it on the media that he hugged them and he shook hands with them so that they should be consoled and they should be feeling that they are among us. They are one of us. And as the Constitution of Pakistan and our religion has given status to them as a human being, as a Pakistani, they are equally important to this country and to the Muslims as we Muslims are important for this country.
Right, Mr. Javed, what's your understanding of the prompt measures, especially when we talk about that incident? There was unfolding of the prompt administrative measures taken by the administration of that particular area that stopped the violence from further escalating.
In the first place, I would say this is a very horrifying incident, and it has brought a bad name to the country. Whosoever is responsible for this must be condemned. And we must also not forget the speech of the founding father of Pakistan, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, on the 11th of August 1947, in which he had made it absolutely clear that all citizens living in Pakistan, irrespective of their faith, creed, and race, and everything, and color, they are equal in the eye of law, and they must be treated equally. And he also made it very clear that all citizens of Pakistan can go to their worship place without any inhibition. So that was the message of the founding father, and it is very sad that some people, some extremists, some elements in our society are violating flagrantly the teachings of the Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. But the government has done a great job, a splendid job, an appreciable job by compensating these affected people. The churches which were set ablaze, and the houses which were burnt, and the people who were killed and maimed in this whole sordid action. So I think the government has taken an action, and it is a very appreciable action. The compensation has been given. Chief Minister Punjab visited that place initially, and now the Prime Minister himself visited there. And this is a step which will console the Christian community in Pakistan. And I would say that it is the duty of the religious people, the media, and all the organizations, social organizations, to basically create an atmosphere of harmony, and in which the interfaith is strengthened, rather than creating divisions, rather than promoting hatred, particularly religious extremism. That is not going to serve our country and our people. And the government is taking steps in the right direction.
Right, Mr. Javed, I'll come to that particular point, the role and the responsibility of the religious scholars as well as the media in helping foster interfaith harmony and promoting tolerance in the country. Also, Dr. Niaz Murtaza, when we talk about the steps which have been taken by the authorities, the prompt preemptive measures in order to stop the violence that was unfolding at that very particular day, to stop it from further escalating. And not only that, but also the Prime Minister himself going and visiting that particular area and expressing solidarity and empathizing with the community over there, distributing the compensation checks also. Earlier, we had seen the Prime Minister stating a stern action will be taken against the perpetrators. Clearly shows that the state of Pakistan takes the complete ownership of the minorities. What's your understanding?
Well, yes, I mean, it was, a horrible incident, very shameful incident. Obviously, it brought, a bad reputation for Pakistan internationally. But, much more important than that is, the fact that what it did to the lives of these people. And remember, this was a working class neighborhood of, generally poor people who were already living in the margin because of, the crushing inflation that we've had for the last 4 or 5 years, the unemployment, and so on. And to have something like that, your whole possessions, your houses getting destroyed like this, it was crushing for them. And so, what should the authorities do? We should also remember, the nature of this authority, that, you're talking about an interim government. Obviously, the kind of expectations that you will have from an interim government are much more restricted than what you would expect from, a long-term government. There you can talk about, long-term policies to, curb extremism, change, the educational policy, madrasa. Now, obviously, you cannot talk about all those things for an interim government. What an interim government should do is, 3 or 4 basic things, the day-to-day things. One is, expressing strong solidarity with the people, which includes, visiting the people. And after 2 or 3 days at least, today we had a couple of visits. First of all, there was this very good gesture of holding the cabinet meeting inside a church. And it reminds me of, how New Zealand had reacted when there was, this attack on a mosque where, 50 people were killed, and, they played the Quran in their assembly, and that, showed, what kind of, priority they are giving it, and what kind of solidarity they are, showing. So in that sense, holding a cabinet meeting within a church, I think that's a good step. Then the president went there, and then the second step is to, adequately compensate the people who've lost everything. And did I hear you say that, the checks have already been distributed? Because normally what happens is there's an announcement, and then, it takes a very long time for, the money to be actually distributed. So, if the checks have already been distributed today, I think that's a very good step. And then the third step that you can expect from, even an interim government is to arrest the culprits, and not just, the immediate culprits, but, even, the brains behind all these incidents, who normally don't go into the streets to do the things, but are, normally, controlling and instigating these things from behind the scenes. So I understand a lot of, the foot soldiers have been arrested. So I think the next step is to, by arresting them and getting information from them, try to find out who were, the brains, the leaders behind it, and get to them. Because, until you get to the leaders and give them exemplary punishment, the foot soldiers, you put them behind bars, and they just recruit new soldiers. So I think the remaining thing that is now there, even for an interim government, is to, go behind the foot soldiers and find out who instigated it, and, arrest them and make an, example out of them.
Right, Dr. Niaz, your point is well taken. Mr. Naveed, when we talk about the provision of justice, the caretaker Prime Minister categorically said stern action will be taken. Already we know that IG Punjab has also shared that 125 people have been arrested, 12 people including a cleric are under investigation. Of course, we all agree that an exemplary punishment should be given to the perpetrators. But do you think it is only about giving the punishment which will stop such type of gruesome acts happening? Because do you think it's also is the problem or the matter of the mindset that is deeply entrenched?
Definitely, Jawad. It will help, but it is not the only solution of the problem. There are many factors involved in such mindset. Though the Prime Minister and the Chief Minister of Punjab both are very committed and very, very energetic in the services for the extension of the services towards humanity and the Pakistani Christian community at this stage. And they have shown the best they could. And the brisk attitude given to them is the thing which has consoled the Christian community. The ulama, the religious scholars, need to come forward to bring the communities closer, rather to address the hatredness and the differences between the communities and between the religions. They need to bring the religions and the followers of the religions all together. Quran is very important for the Muslims. Equally, Bible and Torah is important for their followers. And the beliefs and the religions are important to all the followers across the world. So Muslims believe that the Quran is important for Muslims. Quran is Bible and Torah is equally important for the Muslims to value and to grace. We Muslims cannot burn Bible or Torah in any such incident. The Muslims, they attacked the churches, but in churches there might have been definitely Bible would have been there, and when everything is burned to ashes, Bible was also burned to ashes. Is this the treatment, or is it the teaching of Islam? No, I don't think, and I believe that the teachings of Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam are very clear and categoric, and Huzur Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned in his 628 AD address and letter that the Christians in particular, he mentioned, the Christians enjoy all those privileges which the Muslims enjoy in that society. and this address is till the doomsday. All the Muslims will follow his orders, his concerns till the doomsday. It means that we need to show solidarity and harmony, that goodwill gesture to all the communities living in the society.
Right, Mr. Naveed, I seek your pardon for the interjection over here. It's time for a quick, short break. We'll be back after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Views on News. I'm Jawad Tehami. In today's program, we are discussing the measures the authorities in Pakistan have taken in the wake of the Jaranwala incident. And today, caretaker Prime Minister Mr. Anwarul Haqqaqar visited Jaranwala in order to express solidarity and empathize with the Christian community affected over there. We are joined in the studio by Mr. Naveed Aman Khan, Mr. Javed Siddiq, and on Skype we are being joined by Dr. Niaz Murtaza. Mr. Naveed, please go ahead. Please complete your thoughts.
Jawad, 2-3 things are very important to be mentioned. Number one is this, that I saw one lady who was asking about the dowry which she had made for her 2 daughters. The dowry of the 2 daughters is burned to ashes, which is a very, very sad thing. The civil society should also come forward to support and to extend their goodwill gesture towards the community and make the arrangements of such losses. I have seen a couple of children playing with their burnt cycles and dolls. I mean, it is really sad and heart-touching. And the society should also move towards that community and support them, present them such gifts to the children who are really, shocked and in trauma. And they love their entire world is their toys, number one. Number two is, I have not seen the goodwill gesture extended by the political parties towards that community. The only responsibility which extended by the government of Punjab and the federal government is there, very much there, and this is very hopeful. But the civil society, the political parties are
Should
missing.
also come
Number 3
forward.
is the NGOs, the human rights NGOs, the women rights NGOs. They have not shown their that gesture, which should have been come out at this level, because I have seen that gesture in favor of Iman Mazari and Shiri Mazari as the women rights.
So your view, a similar sort of response should have come from the civil society and the NGOs when it comes to the suffering of the women in Jaranwala also in the wake of this incident.
Definitely,
right.
definitely.
Mr. Javed Siddiq, when we talk about the provision of justice, of course the Supreme Court is going to also hear the petition from tomorrow regarding this incident. We already know that FIRs have been registered regarding this, and the authorities are very much clear about it, that the stern action and exemplary punishment to the perpetrators would be meted out. Now, do you think it's just the matter of giving the exemplary punishment, even the severest of the punishments are given? Do you think this is going to stop such incidents from recurring, or is it a bigger matter? It's a matter of changing the mindset in the society.
I think yes, exemplary punishment is also very important to deter this kind of incidents to happen again or to be repeated. But at the same time, I think a collective effort is required to stem extremism and extremist views in the society. And we need to build a harmonious society in which all religious people, all people of all faiths could live in peace and harmony with each other. Pakistan society, by and large, has been a peaceful society ever since the creation of Pakistan. The Christians, the Hindus, the Sikhs, and other minorities are living in peace in Pakistan. Unfortunately, in a few decades earlier, this extremism has started taking roots in our country. Although no incidents of the magnitude that we are witnessing across the border in India and elsewhere, where the Muslims are being butchered, they are being subjected to extreme punishment, they are being maltreated, and their mosques are being burned, starting from the Babri Mosque. Hundreds of mosques have been attacked and burned in India. But in Pakistan, nothing of that sort happened. But we need a collective effort, we need a joint effort basically to stem this extremism or religious hatred. And in achieving that objective, I think the religious scholars, particularly, they have a very important role to play. Instead of instigating trouble or inciting people to violence on small incidents, they should have played a role to bring the things under control.
Right. Mr. Javed Siddiq, how a common man would differentiate? Like, for example, in this particular case, the very sanctity of the mosques, the places of worship, by using the facilities which were given, for example, the loudspeaker, to call people for the prayer and to spread the message of love, brotherhood,
Exactly.
patience, and interfaith harmony through that very podium. So that very sanctity was violated. So how a normal common citizen of the Pakistani society is going to differentiate between those messages and the messages of hatred, particularly using a place of worship like a mosque?
Unfortunately, when this kind of incidents take place, some people, some extremists, they become prominent and they start controlling the situation. The situation goes into their hands. And the same happened, they started using the mosque for spreading the hatred and extremism against a community. That shouldn't have happened. And I think if a religious scholar,
So that shouldn't have happened. So who is going to reach out to those common
I
people?
think the imam of the mosque or the scholar, religious scholar who was heading that mosque or who was responsible for the administration of that mosque, he should have come forward, and he shouldn't have allowed somebody else to use the loudspeakers to basically incite people and to spread this kind of hatred or hateful speeches, which basically provoked people and they resorted to violence. That should
Also,
have been,
peace committees should
that
be
should have
formed.
been stopped there and then. That didn't happen. And I've witnessed as a journalist that in such incidents or in such situations, some elements, irresponsible elements, emotional people, they start playing with the sentiments of the people, religious sentiments of the people. They try to exploit them, and that leads to horrible situation. That leads to violence, killings, as it has happened in Jaranwala. So I think
One thing which is very important, Javed Sahab, is this, that the minorities in Pakistan, they have been very cool and calm.
I'll come to that point to take your view.
So
Please go
I
ahead.
think that's the role of the ulamas. That's the role of religious scholars.
So
that
if
they-
we talk about this particular incident, it should be dealt on different levels.
Yes.
In terms of punishment, also in terms of more regulation when it comes to the responsibility of the administration or the religious scholars which are attached to that particular
Exactly.
mosque,
And
and then
also,
changing the
I
mindset. Let
think
me go to
the
Dr. Niaz.
police, I have heard stories in the press that the police which was present there allowed them this thing to happen.
No, Mr. Javed Siddiq, I would tend to disagree over here, because when there is a huge mob that has already been emotionally charged,
Yes.
so don't you think such type of thing becomes uncontainable by the law enforcement at that
That's
very
what,
particular moment?
Yes, that is true. But when
The police is not even trained for it.
when basically the loudspeaker of the mosque was taken into hands, or somebody went there inside the mosque and started making speeches and started inciting the people and fomenting the trouble, there I think they should have intervened.
Okay, let me bring in Dr. Niaz Murtaza also into the discussion. Dr. Niaz Murtaza, what's your understanding how such type of incidents should be dealt with? Is it more a matter of setting an example by the severest of the punishment, or more regulation of the institutions like mosques, or is it a bigger matter of changing the mindset all across and reaching out to the common people?
Well, of course, all of them are required, but then, we need to differentiate between, the different kind of approaches. If you talk about punishment, that is after the fact when an incident has happened. So obviously you would not like that to be the only tool you use, because by that time the damage is done. So what you need is, preventative, proactive measures which can make sure that, the frequency of such incidents keeps, decreasing, and we ultimately come to a point where they, stop happening. And that's where, we need to look at proactive measures. And as you were mentioning, there's a critical role for, religious scholars. And what we need to do is, operationalize that by forming neighborhood level committees consisting of the mosque leaders as well as the church leaders, so that, they know each other, they have, the phone numbers of each other, they trust each other, they communicate with each other. So whenever, there is something like this flaring up, the church leaders can quickly inform the mosque leaders, and they can start, making announcement from the mosque. And even before that, on a regular basis, there should be exchanges and visits between church leaders coming to mosque, mosque leaders going to churches, interacting with the communities, trying to, change attitudes about, the communities in their regular Friday and Sunday sermons. So, that these kind of tensions, the misunderstandings, the biases that exist across, the different faiths, those get eliminated, and they are whipped by, of course, the extremists. And then the third thing is to, identify these kind of extremist levels. And that's also, the job of, these neighborhood committees, because, they have ears and eyes at the ground level, and, they can develop a very sophisticated, sort of mapping of, where the trouble spots are, who are the troublemakers, and all that can help the job of, our law enforcement agencies, the government, the authorities, because they have limitations in terms of, information at the ground level. So it has to be, a sophisticated, a kind of strategy, long-term strategy involving community leaders, the law enforcement agencies, authorities, and the general public. And you see this, in country after country, where, these kind of, tensions occur. I have, implemented these kind of programs in at least 15, 20 countries globally, Sri Lanka, Sudan, other countries. And there's a need to, spread these kind of programs in Pakistan too, especially in areas where there are more tensions.
Right, Dr. Niaz Murtaza, how crucial it is to inculcate among the general masses that taking the law into their hands is going to have consequences. What steps should be taken in that regard?
That, of course, the consequences are, of course, punishing the people. But, I think it has to be much more proactive, that, so that the seeds that exist within minds, the seeds of hatred, they are nipped in the bud. They are not allowed to sprout, grow up. And, especially, in schools, the youngsters who will eventually grow up to, absorb some of these biases and attitudes, there's a need to, do a lot of work at the school level, at the university level. So it has to be, a multi-pronged strategy. And, there are a lot of experts available within Pakistan which can help the government implement these countries. But then again, the question comes to it that we have an interim government. You can't really expect that much from them. But, whenever the next government is in, they do need to, develop a long-term strategy.
Right, Mr. Naveed, now, how crucial do you think is it to inculcate among the general masses if such type of institution like a mosque and the facilities provided to it are being wrongly used? So how the common man can differentiate between what is going to be right and what's going to be wrong?
Jawad, one thing is very important, and that is the role of the society. We are living with different minorities, and they celebrate their days, religious days and many other days. The Muslims should participate in those days of the Christians, the Hindus, the Parsis, the Sikhs, and those minorities should participate in the Eids and the happiness days of the Muslims as well. Like in the month of Ramadan, Ramadan is a sacred month for the Muslims, but the non-Muslims, they participate in providing the meals to the Muslims in different parts of the country. Such behavior should be extended from the Muslims to the non-Muslims as well, to go for to show solidarity and goodwill gesture to the Holies and the Baisakhi and the the Christmas and many other days. So this gesture needs to be implemented and enforced or extended in the entire country, and it will work, I tell you, because this is a problem of the society. So when the societies they intermingle, the issue will diminish.
So you were already mentioning the role of the peace committees. We have seen a development. The Church of Pakistan and Pakistan Ulama Council has also formed a 24-member committee of the diverse leaders in order to foster interfaith harmony. The role of peace committees, how crucial and important?
Very important, very important. And locally, the peace committees be formed in the entire country, from division to division, from sect to sect, from region to region, from the community to community. Because this peace committee will be responsible for the creation of the peace, for bringing the differences all together, so that the differences should be addressed and the harmony should prevail there. So the role of the peace committee is very, very important, not only in this matter, but also the entire country, wherever the human beings are living in Pakistan. The local peace committees will work.
Right, Mr. Javed, you already quoted Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah regarding what the rights minorities would have here in the state of Pakistan. Now, this step by the government of restoring and rehabilitating the damaged churches, what does that speak about?
I think that has sent a very positive signal to the Christian community and other communities as well, that all minorities, religious minorities in Pakistan are protected by the Constitution of Pakistan. Their rights are protected, and the state is responsible to give full protection to them and to provide them an atmosphere where they can go to their worship places and worship there. And on every occasion, we have seen that special arrangements, security arrangements are made in Pakistan. And this was an incident which basically was a sporadic incident, and it happened suddenly, and some people, some irresponsible extremist people jumped in and they exploited the situation. It shouldn't have happened that way. And I think our religious scholars, it is their duty to tell the Muslims, the common Muslims of Pakistan, what is the teaching of Prophet, peace be upon him, in this regard. His teaching is that anybody who is living in an Islamic state, minorities, religious minority, Hindus or Sikhs or even Jews or Christians, they need to be treated in a very, very in equal way, and they have the equal rights. And in recent days, 2 or 3 days, the Punjab government has come out with some advertisements quoting Prophet's hadiths and his sayings, that how he looked at minorities in an Islamic state, in Riyasat-e-Madina, what was his attitude and what was his thinking towards the minorities. So that is the real Islamic spirit. I think our scholars, our ulamas, the clerics, they should be very clear in their mind, and they should tell the people, the Muslims, that they need to live in peace and harmony with other minorities, religious minorities, and they must not exploit the religious differences in order to create hatred and divisions, and that's very important. And I think this is the duty of the ulamas, the religious scholars, to convince the people, to tell them that this is the thinking of the Prophet, peace be upon him, with regard to minorities living in an Islamic state.
Indeed, that is a huge responsibility on the shoulders of the religious scholars when it comes to...
And also I think media. Media is very important. I think our media should come out with certain writing, certain articles, certain analysis, and they should also promote an atmosphere of peace and harmony, religious harmony, and that is very important through their editorials. The people, in the TV shows, they should come
Discussions
out.
should be promoted.
They should come out with the religious teachings, particularly the perspective of a Muslim with regard to the treatment to the minorities. That is very important. I think we need to shun all hatred, all prejudices with regard to other minorities, and we need to create harmony.
So don't you think a holistic national policy regarding media's role in inculcating this sort of a message is required?
That is very important. I think the media owners, the editors, and the people who are managing media outlets, they should come together, and I think the government should basically facilitate them to come together and chalk out a policy of how to create unity among various religious minorities of the country. That is so important, and I think that is a primary duty of our media. That's so important. We have seen the consequences of what's happening in the Western countries, Sweden, for instance. What are they doing? And that society is basically totally shaken because of a few incidents of desecration of the Holy Quran. So I think we need to shun all these kind of incidents in Pakistan to create larger harmony among the people of Pakistan.
Dr. Niaz Murtaza, a quick last comment regarding formulating a national holistic media policy in order to spread the awareness among the general masses and promote that interfaith harmony. How badly do you think it is required?
Yeah, I mean, especially when you talk about media in today's world, you have to look at, the print media, the electronic media, and of course the social media. So I think the other two gentlemen have already spoken about, the print media and the formal media. So I think I'll focus on, the role of social media, which I think is very crucial because, that is at a much more community level. And what we've seen is that, these kind of, hate mongers using social media so effectively to distribute messages at the community level. So definitely, there's a need to, look at, how hate speech is being spread through the social media and take steps to, curb that and in fact replace that with, a different kind of social media which spreads messages about peace, harmony, love, tolerance, etc. So I think, yes, again, a very holistic policy is needed for all the three branches of the media.
Right, Dr. Niaz Murtaza, political analyst, joining us on Skype. Thank you very much for being with us on the show tonight. In the studio, we were joined by Mr. Naveed Aman Khan, senior analyst. Mr. Naveed, thank you very much for your time also. And Mr. Javed Siddiq, senior journalist, thank you very much for your time also for being with us on the show today. I'll conclude today's show by a quote from the address caretaker Prime Minister today made in Jaranwala. He had warned that no one could predict the future, but in case any miscreant or group that harbored evil designs against minorities, including Sikhs, Hindus, or others, would find the authority of the government on the side of the affected segments, shielding them against any harm. With that quote, we come to the end of today's show. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.